Drakkar Klose, Jeremy Stephens, back up. This is one of those moments, guys, I wish it never happened. Like if I had my wish, Genie pops out of the bottle, just take it back, it just never happened. Let me break this down in case you're a little caught off of what I'm talking about. Jeremy Stephens, Drakkar Klose, going to be the co-main event underneath Whitaker Gastelum. They go to weigh-ins. They get face-to-face. They got masks on. I trust something was said. I don't know. Jeremy Stephens gives a push to Klose. Now, as far as a push goes when you're face-to-face and you push a guy, this was probably the hardest push I've ever seen. It just was. It was just one of those things where Jeremy Stephens was able to generate so much energy and motion in such a small period. I mean, Bruce Lee, the master of the 6-inch punch, would have been impressed by Jeremy Stephens. It was a heck of a push. It was still a push. And that's why I say I wish this hadn't happened, because I don't want something bad to happen to Jeremy here. I know it was in his head. His head was, we're face-to-face. This guy says, I give a little bit of push. We built some hype. Everybody thinks we're heroes, and they turn in tomorrow night. That at least was the thought or the intent. It was not what happened, which was Jeremy hurt him. Jeremy hurt Klose so badly that Klose had to go to the hospital, and Klose had to withdraw from the fight. Now, Klose is not talking punitive damage. He is not talking legal action. He is just merely saying, whoa, whatever happened here, but I got some whiplash and I got a spinal and man, I got a little concussion. A lot of things happened here. I listened to a doctor speak on that. The doctor's point was fascinating to me because if you look at the push of Jeremy, or even if you haven't seen it, but you just heard what I said, Jeremy pushed him, you're going to go, so what? And you're going to say, so what, in the vein of that push would have been the lightest by an exponential factor piece of physical contact that Klose would have endured when they actually got in there under the unified rules with the cage door shut. I don't disagree with you, but the doctor weighed in and he was talking about trauma, and he was talking about the ability to sustain trauma when you're not ready. When you have a traumatic incident that you're not expecting, that's why it can be so bad. And he even compared it to a car wreck, where you're locked in, you're in a seatbelt, all that happens is your head comes forward and it comes back, but you could have a lifetime of damage of it. But the reason is that you weren't expecting it. If you would have tensed up, if you would have been aware, if you would have been ready, the doctor maintained that it would be different. And you know what? From my own personal experience, I get that. That makes a level of sense. And I want to bring that out and say that because I did see something said about Klose, and I do not like it. I want it to stop right now. That Klose was being over dramatic, that Klose was playing something up, that Klose didn't want to fight Jeremy. I went back after I watched this doctor's breakdown on Twitter. The doctor's a friend of mine. He's a surgeon out of Florida. He does a fantastic job, but of everything he said in his breakdown, the fact that he talked about the trauma happening when Klose was not expecting it, it really stood out for me enough that I thought I would recap and bring it to you guys because this was real. And I went back and I watched that. I mean, it really was an amazing amount of force that Jeremy Stephens was able to, for whatever reason, Stephens probably couldn't even tell us why that push was so effective. Klose is likely very embarrassed that he had to pull out of a fight because he was pushed. But the doctor makes an excellent point, which is Klose, and he does. Guys, he has a whiplash. There's no way to deny it. And I'm a friend of Jeremy. I would come out and defend Jeremy while trying to just tell you what happened. And in many ways, I feel I am defending Jeremy because I would like it to be known that we're looking at what happened as opposed to the intent. We all want to be judged on our intent, not our actions, but we always judge other people on the actions, not the intent. This is one of those things that I wish it would just go away. I want Klose to be better. I want this to all be made up. I do not want legal action, punitive damage. I do not want sanctioning by the commission. I don't want the organization to step in. And I don't think any of those things are going to happen if we can all as sportsmen just agree that wasn't what was supposed to happen, right? I mean, it's one of these things. I don't even know for you that Klose said anything to Jeremy. I just saw Jeremy's physical reaction. I've interpreted that Klose must have said something. No matter what Klose said, he did not deserve that. He did not deserve whiplash. He did not deserve a concussion. Klose is a victim here. And anybody that's giving him a hard time while he's dealing with something medically, not to mention miss the biggest opportunity of his short career, not fair. Not fair. The other side is, what do you want to do with Jeremy? He didn't have any intent. And if we're going to go and we're going to look at Jeremy, what are we going to do? We're going to say this was a crime. We're going to arrest him. We're going to charge him. We're going to sanction him. Why him? Why only him? If we're going to go back and make right on every push that ever happened at a weigh-in, we're going to have to block up thousands of people. Right, there's a level of expected and a level of accepted action, both verbal and physical, when at a stare down at a weigh-in. Taking two open hands to a guy's chest and moving in a forward motion known as a push is one of those things that happens. Sean Shelby steps in this case, Dana White in most cases. You separate them, the teams come in, it's a great photo moment. That doesn't mean it's okay, and that doesn't mean it's allowed, and I do believe moving forward, nobody's going to touch anybody. I do believe that we just had a very teachable moment right here. I would ask that we all take a breath. Let's hear from Klose. Klose needed to cancel the fight. He wasn't feeling well. Klose's opinion has to matter in this. And if Klose comes out and says, hey, Jeremy's POS and something terrible needs to happen to him, my whole life is going to be different, we're going to have to listen to Klose. But if Klose doesn't, if he says, look, just rebook it. Something strange happened. My neck went in motion. I'm working with a doctor, and I'm going to be okay in 6 weeks. Then let's listen to Klose. But this is one of the more confusing, in many ways, one of the more disappointing things that I've ever seen happen. And at a minimum, this has to be a teaching moment. Don't touch somebody, guys. It is not your job to go out and promote a fight at the weigh-in. You didn't bring in the cameras. You didn't bring in the media. You don't know what's going to get cut up and what clips are going to SportsCenter. And don't be so jealous and thirsty for that you go out and you try to create something. It's not right. It's never right in society to touch a guy. This happened in reverse effect by Paul Daley. Paul Daley fought Josh Koscheck. They fought for 15 minutes. The bell rang. The fight was over, and Paul Daley threw a punch. And Dana White came out and said that's an assault. It's illegal. And he's right. The unified rules are very specific to determine times between bell and bell at the discretion and advice of the referee. I share that with you because there's always a mistake made. Well, here we are and we're fighters and this is what we do. If you are not in the cage at a designated time between bell to bell as directed by the referee, it's a crime. Paul Daley didn't get arrested, but he did get released. Babalu held on to a position after the referee said stop. He was released. Jeremy Stephens did not do anything that he believed would result in physical harm or damage. Nobody has ever pushed anybody ever at a weigh-in or any other time that I know of with an intent of physical damage. That's not what happened here. This is not the same as a Paul Daley or when the Babalu held the move. It's not the same. It was a totally different intent. But a mistake was made. And at a minimum, at an absolute minimum, let's all learn from it. And let's not, in any fashion, say anything to Klose other than, I hope you're doing okay.